The dragon lady lay in her chamber, scales dim and wings folded weakly around her body. The room was large, filled with soft golden light that reflected off her fading shimmer. The station's corridors outside were quiet, almost reverent, as if everyone feared disturbing her. Rumors spread that she was dying, a legend in pain, untouchable and powerful even in her weakness. Aliens and humans alike avoided her, whispering about the great dragon whose life force was slipping away. Rian, a human mechanic, pushed open the heavy door at the bottom deck of the station. He was not a soldier or a scientist, just a man who fixed broken ships and kept energy conduits running. He had heard the rumors but never believed them. Today, his supervisor had sent him to inspect the chamber's energy systems, which powered her life support. Rian grunted under the weight of his tools and stepped carefully into the room. The dragon lady's eyes opened slightly, golden and glowing faintly. Rian froze. He had seen many alien creatures in his life but nothing like this. Her gaze was sharp, assessing him instantly. He lowered his toolbox, trying not to appear threatening. "I'm just here to fix the energy grid," he said quietly. The dragon lady's breathing was shallow, her chest moving slowly. There was a faint hum in the room as the energy conduits flickered weakly. Rian knelt near the console, checking readings. The energy levels were low, unstable. As he reached to adjust the panel, his hand brushed against the dragon lady's claw. A spark of warmth ran through him, more than electricity, something alive, powerful, and ancient. He froze, heart racing, unsure of what he had just done. The dragon lady stirred, her wings quivering slightly. Her glowing eyes met his, and for a moment, the room felt alive in a new way. He stepped back, trying to pull his hand away, but he felt an unexpected connection. A pulse of energy flowed from her scales into his arm, and he realized something extraordinary had happened. The dragon lady's breathing deepened slightly, and her eyes glimmered with a faint warmth. She was responding. No one had touched her for years without fear or harm, yet here was a human mechanic who had accidentally bridged the distance between them. Rian swallowed nervously and wiped his sweaty hands. He could feel her presence, a deep, resonant force that filled the chamber. Despite her weakness, there was intelligence, judgment, and life. He whispered, "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help." The dragon lady blinked slowly, a gesture he would later learn meant curiosity and cautious acceptance. He turned back to the console, adjusting circuits and checking energy flows. Each movement he made seemed to affect her subtly. Her wings twitched, her scales brightened faintly, and her breathing became steadier. He realized that she wasn't simply dying from old age or illness. Something in the energy network had trapped her life force, slowly draining her power. If it remained unchecked, she would fade completely. Rian worked methodically, unaware of how long he had been there. He adjusted the power regulators, rerouted conduits, and stabilized the failing systems. Each time he touched a control panel, the dragon lady's energy pulsed in response, as if she were giving him permission to continue. He began to understand that this was not just a mechanical repair, he was restoring life. Outside the chamber, guards whispered about what they saw. They had never witnessed a human interact with the dragon lady so closely. Rian was small, ordinary, and fragile compared to her legendary form, yet he was the only one willing to approach. Some feared he would be destroyed instantly. Others were amazed as the dragon lady's breathing grew steadier and her glowing scales returned a subtle shine. By evening, the dragon lady had lifted her head slightly, observing Rian as he worked. She made a low, vibrating hum, a sound that carried both authority and relief. Rian paused, unsure if he had done something right or wrong. Slowly, he reached toward her again, careful not to touch too forcefully. The hum changed tone, and her eyes brightened a little more. He realized she was responding positively, allowing him to help. The chamber was filled with quiet energy. The lights of the station reflected in her scales, shimmering faintly with a life that had almost been lost. Rian knelt, focusing entirely on his task, unaware that this moment would mark the beginning of a bond neither human nor dragon could have imagined. For the first time in decades, the dragon lady felt something resembling hope. As night fell over the station, Rian leaned back on the floor, exhausted but determined. He watched the dragon lady stretch slightly, her wings trembling but no longer entirely still. He whispered, "We'll fix this. You won't die today." Her eyes glimmered with acknowledgement, and the faintest glow spread across her body. The legend of the dragon lady remained untouchable in the minds of the station's inhabitants, but here in the quiet chamber, a human mechanic had accidentally touched her, and that small action had changed everything. Life had returned to her scales, breathing had strengthened, and a bond had begun. A dying queen had found a fragile lifeline in an unexpected hand, and the future of both human and dragon would never be the same. Rian returned to the Dragon Lady's chamber the next morning, carrying his toolbox and a careful sense of purpose. The Dragon Lady lay in the same position as before, wings folded weakly, but her eyes opened as he entered. There was a spark in them now, faint but undeniable, and she regarded him with something close to curiosity instead of the old icy disdain that had filled the room before. Rian took a deep breath and spoke softly, "I'm here to help, nothing more." The Dragon Lady tilted her head, and a low, vibrating hum escaped her throat. It was not threatening but attentive, as if she were acknowledging him. He stepped closer, hands hovering over the energy console, but not touching her directly. He had learned from yesterday that even the smallest movement could communicate intent. As he adjusted a power regulator, the Dragon Lady's tail twitched slightly. Warmth pulsed through the room, subtle but enough to make him notice. He realized that she could feel his presence in a way he had never experienced before. There was a bond forming, delicate but powerful. He wasn't sure if it was purely energy or if something deeper, trust perhaps, was growing. 4 hours, Rian worked quietly, monitoring the energy systems and carefully balancing the life support network that sustained her. Each adjustment caused the Dragon Lady to respond with small movements. A flick of a claw, a glow from her scales, a gentle hum. Rian started noting these responses, understanding that she was communicating in her own way. When he increased the flow of stabilizing energy, her breathing became steadier and her glow intensified. When he paused, she seemed to wait, watching him. The guards outside whispered among themselves. No human had ever dared to approach the Dragon Lady so closely. They had feared that even a glance could be fatal. Yet here was Rian, a simple mechanic, touching her systems and standing beside her without harm. Some speculated it was luck, others believed it was courage, but the truth was far more extraordinary. The Dragon Lady had allowed him into her presence and she was responding. As the day progressed, Rian noticed small changes. The Dragon Lady shifted her position, curling her wings slightly around herself but opening enough space for him to move more freely. Her eyes followed him closely, golden orbs that flickered with life. He spoke quietly, narrating each action, adjusting flow, monitoring circuits, temperature steady. Each word seemed to comfort her, though he wasn't sure if she understood human speech or simply the tone of his voice. A sudden flicker of light on the energy panel startled him, and he glanced at the Dragon Lady. She had lifted her head slightly, watching with alert awareness. Rian realized she was learning from him just as much as he was learning from her. Her instincts, honed over centuries, were merging with his human knowledge. He could feel her reaction to every adjustment, and it guided him in ways no manual could. When he reached to tighten a critical power coupling, his hand brushed her claw again, not by accident this time but with intention. A wave of energy pulsed through him, stronger than before, and the Dragon Lady shivered. It was not pain but recognition. She exhaled slowly, and her scales shimmered with renewed strength. Rian understood in that moment that the accidental touch from yesterday had started something, but this deliberate touch deepened the connection. Over the next few days a pattern emerged. Rian worked during the station's quiet hours, adjusting systems, monitoring energy flows, and learning the subtle cues from the Dragon Lady. She moved in response to him, flicking her tail, glowing in sequences and even vibrating softly when the energy stabilized. He began to interpret these as signs of trust and understanding. They were forming a bond that was neither purely human nor purely dragon. It was something in between, a link born of shared survival and necessity. The Dragon Lady started initiating small gestures herself. She nudged a power panel with her claw, directing him to check a line he might have overlooked. Her eyes followed his movements constantly, alert and aware. It was a silent partnership. Rian began responding intuitively, adjusting flows and temperature without waiting for explicit signs. Together they became a team, stabilizing her life force and protecting it from any potential failure in the station's aging systems. By the end of the week, the Dragon Lady's breathing was stronger, more rhythmic. Her wings, though still folded, had some movement. The faint glow of her scales became more consistent, brightening when Rian made adjustments and dimming only slightly when he paused. Guards and station workers watched from a distance, astonished. The legendary Dragon Lady, feared and untouchable, was alive, and her recovery was guided by a human mechanic. Rian realized that their connection went beyond energy and systems. She seemed to understand his intentions, his care, and his patience. He could feel her trust in subtle ways, a flicker of glow, a shift in posture, a hum that vibrated through the room. It was unlike anything he had experienced, and he knew it was a bond that could not be broken easily. That evening he paused, hands resting on the console. The dragon lady had lifted her head, golden eyes fixed on him. She exhaled softly, wings moving slightly as if in comfort. Rian whispered, "We'll get through this. I won't let you fail." Her glow pulsed in response, and he understood it as agreement, a silent promise. For the first time, the dragon lady had allowed someone into her world. Not as a servant or a subject, but as a companion and helper. Rian, the human mechanic, had unintentionally sparked a bond that was changing everything. She was no longer simply dying and untouchable. She was alive, aware, and connected to him in a way that defied fear and legend. Outside, the station was quiet under the glow of distant stars, but inside the chamber life had returned. The dragon lady's hum filled the room, steady and calm, and Rian felt the unspoken promise between them. Together they would face the days ahead, strengthening her life force, learning from one another, and building a trust that neither human nor dragon had ever known. The bond had begun, fragile yet extraordinary, and it would change both of their lives forever. Rian entered the dragon lady's chamber early the next morning, carrying his toolkit and a careful sense of purpose. The dragon stirred at his approach, lifting her head slightly and blinking golden eyes that glimmered faintly in the soft light. Her scales, once dull and lifeless, now shone with subtle hints of color. Rian felt a wave of relief. The accidental touch from the previous days had begun something extraordinary, and now he had a chance to help her truly heal. He knelt near the console that monitored her energy systems. Every panel, wire, and conduit needed careful adjustment. Rian worked slowly, speaking softly, explaining each step as if the dragon lady could understand every word. Adjusting flow here. Temperature steady now. Life support stable. She listened, or at least responded, by shifting slightly, wings twitching and scales glowing in faint pulses. It was not conversation as humans knew it, but it was communication nonetheless. Over the next few hours, Rian learned that her illness was tied to the energy network of the station. Long ago, during a battle with a rogue alien faction, her life force had been bound to the station's failing power systems. Slowly, over decades, her strength had leaked away, leaving her near death. Rian realized that fixing her energy flow was more than mechanical work. It was life-saving. Each careful adjustment restored a fraction of her vitality, and with it, her responsiveness. When he reached to reroute a power line, his hand brushed her claw. The warmth that pulsed through him was stronger than before, and the dragon lady exhaled softly, her scales shimmering brighter. It was clear now that touch and intention mattered. Rian learned to move with care, letting her sense his presence before acting. Every adjustment, every gentle movement reinforced the trust between them. Rian began to experiment with rhythm and energy. He tapped the console in soft patterns, observing how her glow responded. The dragon lady pulsed in sync with some of the rhythms, flickered in others. Gradually he realized she was teaching him, showing him how to channel the energy to stabilize her life force more effectively. It was a delicate dance between human skill and dragon instinct. Days passed and their bond strengthened. The dragon lady began initiating small gestures herself, nudging wires, signaling with flicks of her tail, or vibrating in subtle patterns. Rian responded intuitively, following her cues and adjusting the energy network accordingly. Together they formed a partnership that was both practical and emotional. She was healing, yes, but more than that, she was learning to trust him completely. Rian noticed the first significant sign of recovery when the dragon lady moved her wings deliberately, stretching them fully for the first time in decades. She had regained some strength, enough to lift herself partially. Her eyes followed him with focus, no longer wary but attentive, and she made a low hum that vibrated through the chamber like approval. Rian's heart raced. He realized that she depended on him, but he also depended on her. Their trust was mutual, a fragile yet powerful connection that neither had expected. Occasionally, energy surges in the station caused flickers of weakness in her system. Rian acted quickly, rerouting power, recalibrating conduits, and monitoring her response. Each intervention was a test of their bond. The dragon lady reacted to his presence, pulsing and shifting as if to reassure him that she was still alive, still fighting. Rian learned to read her cues like a language, subtle, intuitive, and vital. By the end of the week, her glow was steady, her breathing deeper, and her movement stronger. She could lift her head fully, wings flexing naturally, and her pulse of energy flowed through the chamber in rhythm with his own work. Rian began speaking to her more openly, explaining what he was doing and why. She responded with soft hums, tail flicks, and subtle glows, forming a dialogue of energy and gesture. The station guards and crew watched from afar in awe. The Dragon Lady, once untouchable and feared, now tolerated, and even seemed to rely on, a human. Her legendary strength, once diminished, was returning, and it was all due to the patient, careful work of one mechanic. Rumors spread quickly. The human who could touch the untouchable, the one who healed the Dragon Lady through trust and understanding. One evening, Rian paused, hands resting on the console, watching her stretch her wings. She exhaled softly, wings trembling slightly as she tested her renewed strength. He spoke quietly, "You're stronger now. You can trust me. I'm here and I won't let you fail." Her scales pulsed in gentle agreement, a sign that the bond between human and dragon had deepened beyond words. As night fell over the station, the Dragon Lady curled near her life support systems, energy flowing steadily, and Rian remained at her side. He felt a calm sense of pride. This was no longer just about fixing machines, it was about healing, about connection, about life restored through patience, courage, and trust. The Dragon Lady had begun to heal, but more importantly, she had begun to trust a human, a feat none had ever accomplished before. By the time Rian left the chamber that night, the Dragon Lady's hum echoed softly, a melody of regained life. The connection they had forged was now unmistakable. She was healing, her strength returning day by day, and the trust between them had grown into a bond neither could ignore. For the first time in decades, the Dragon Lady was alive in both body and spirit, and she had Rian to thank for it. The chamber, once silent and heavy with despair, now held warmth, life, and energy. The Dragon Lady's scales glimmered faintly, her breathing steady, and her golden eyes followed him as he walked to the door. Together, they had begun a journey that would change both of their lives forever. Rian returned to the Dragon Lady's chamber early the next morning, sensing a tension in the air. The golden glow of her scales was steady, her breathing deep and controlled, but there was a sharp vibration through the floor panels beneath her. Rian's hand instinctively went to the energy console. The station systems were stable, yet something outside was approaching, something dangerous. Through the chamber's observation window, Rian saw small flickers of movement in the docking bays. Alien ships, sleek, black, and menacing, glided silently toward the station. He immediately recognized them as raiders, rogue aliens known for hunting creatures of power to weaponize them. The Dragon Lady tensed beside him, wings folding tightly, claws pressing against the floor. She sensed the danger even before Rian did, her instincts sharper than any sensor could be. Rian didn't panic. Years of survival in hostile environments had taught him calm under pressure. He tapped a few panels, rerouting power to defensive systems and closing energy barriers in key corridors. The Dragon Lady watched, eyes glimmering with trust and anticipation. He whispered, "We can do this together. Stay calm, trust me." Her tail twitched once, almost like acknowledgement. The raiders' ships landed near the station docks. Small squads of drones and robotic attackers spilled out, moving quickly toward the chamber. Rian and the Dragon Lady moved as one. He guided energy flows, opening traps along the corridors, and the Dragon Lady unleashed her regained power with precision. Her wings beat strongly, creating gusts that threw raiders off balance, and her glowing scales emitted energy pulses that disabled drones instantly. Rian's hands flew across the control panels. He adjusted energy outputs to power force fields, activated automated turrets, and rerouted station lighting to disorient the intruders. The Dragon Lady coordinated with him instinctively. She moved through the corridors, her claws striking and her tail sweeping, while Rian's interventions amplified her power and protected her from harm. They were no longer human and dragon separately, they were a single force, a coordinated team. The raiders tried to adapt. One drone fired a high-energy blast at the Dragon Lady, but Rian had already activated a temporary energy shield. The blast rebounded harmlessly, leaving the attackers confused. The Dragon Lady hissed and lunged, knocking several drones into each other. Her scales glowed brighter as her power surged in tandem with the station's energy network, which Rian managed expertly. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Each movement, each adjustment, each coordinated strike brought victory closer. Rian directed her toward weak points in the raider formation, and she responded, moving with agility and precision that belied her enormous size. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the corridor floors vibrated under the clash. Yet through it all trust guided them. The Dragon Lady did not hesitate. She knew he had her back just as he knew she would protect him. Finally, the raiders began to retreat, realizing that their plan had failed. Their drones were disabled, their ships damaged, and their numbers thinned by the combined force of human strategy and dragon might. The dragon lady let out a triumphant roar, wings extended fully, sending a wave of energy that echoed throughout the station. Rian stood beside her, panting, hands still on the consoles, amazed at the strength of their coordination. When silence returned, the dragon lady curled near her energy core, breathing steadily. She looked at Rian, golden eyes bright, and emitted a soft, vibrating hum, a sound that conveyed approval, relief, and a deep connection. Rian nodded, feeling the weight of their success and the depth of their bond. They had faced a deadly threat together, not as a dragon and a human but as partners. The station crew began cautiously peeking from their stations. Whispers spread quickly, the human who had touched the untouchable dragon, and together they had repelled a deadly attack. Some were astonished, others fearful, but none could deny the truth. The dragon lady was fully alive, fully aware, and fully capable, and her trust in a human had turned the tide of battle. Rian spent the following hours restoring the station to normal function. Power conduits hummed steadily, life support systems were secure, and the dragon lady's energy pulses glimmered harmoniously with the station. She moved around him, testing her wings, flexing her claws, and occasionally nudging panels, signaling him to check or adjust. They were learning each other's rhythms perfectly. That night, as the station lights dimmed and distant stars shone through the observation windows, Rian sat near the dragon lady. She lowered her head, resting it gently near him, wings folded but strong. The soft hum of her scales filled the chamber, a melody of strength and trust. Rian whispered, "We did it. Together." Her glow brightened slightly, a silent acknowledgement. The raid had been the ultimate test of their bond. Trust, patience, and courage had merged with ancient power, resulting in victory. The dragon lady was no longer a dying queen. She was a survivor, a fighter, and a companion. Rian, the mechanic, had become her equal, her protector, and her friend. Their partnership had transformed from healing into strength, and nothing, not even a deadly alien threat, could break it. In the quiet aftermath, Rian realized the truth. The dragon lady's life had been saved not just by his hands but by trust. The bond they shared was more powerful than any weapon, more enduring than any shield, and stronger than fear itself. The chamber that once held a dying queen now glowed with renewed life, hope, and partnership. The stars outside reflected in her golden eyes, and Rian understood that together, they could face anything. The dragon lady had regained her strength, and their bond had turned a near-death legend into a living, breathing force of the galaxy. The future was theirs, forged in trust, courage, and connection. The dragon lady lay curled near the energy core, her wings flexing and golden eyes glowing steadily. The chamber was alive with power, soft pulses that reflected her strength returning fully. Rian sat nearby, exhausted but filled with pride. The battle had tested them both, yet they had survived, learned, and grown together. For the first time in decades, the dragon lady felt fully alive, and it was because of a human who had dared to touch her. Rian stood and approached her slowly, careful not to startle her. He reached out, letting his hand hover above her scales. She tilted her head, eyes bright, and a small vibration pulsed from her throat. It was a greeting, a recognition, a signal of trust. Rian smiled faintly. "You're stronger now," he said softly. "And I'm here to stay." The station had begun to recover from the raid. Crew members moved cautiously through the corridors, whispering about the miracle they had witnessed. The dragon lady, once feared and untouchable, was now approachable, at least to one human. Rian's presence had not only restored her energy but had also restored her confidence. She could rise, move freely, and even soar if she wished. But she remained close to him, testing this new bond. Over the following days, Rian helped the dragon lady adapt to her renewed strength. He adjusted energy flows carefully, monitored life support, and checked the station systems while she practiced small flights and stretches. Every movement she made was a lesson for him, and every adjustment he made reinforced the trust between them. Their relationship had grown beyond healer and patient. It had become partnership, even friendship. The first true flight was cautious. The dragon lady lifted her wings fully, shaking off years of weakness, and Rian climbed onto her back with careful movements. She rose slowly then steadily, gliding through the station's large hangar. Guards and crew watched in awe as the legendary dragon soared above the station, a human rider on her back, alive and unafraid. The bond between them was undeniable, a living symbol of courage and trust. As they landed, Rian felt a surge of connection. The dragon lady lowered her head slightly, brushing his shoulder with a gentle touch. He understood it as gratitude and recognition. "We make a good team," he whispered. She responded with a soft hum, vibrating through her body and the floor, a language they had developed together. It was simple, pure, and strong. Word of their bond spread quickly across the station and beyond. Other humans and aliens marveled at the partnership. No one had ever seen a dragon fully trust a human in such a way, and no one had ever seen a human inspire such trust and strength in a legendary creature. Their story became a symbol, proof that courage, patience, and empathy could overcome fear, tradition, and even centuries of isolation. In the quiet moments, Rian and the Dragon Lady spent time together, exploring the station, practicing coordination, and simply existing in companionship. She would nuzzle him occasionally, test her power carefully, or hum in soft rhythms that he now understood. Rian learned to interpret every gesture, every glow, every vibration. He realized that their connection was a living language, a dialogue of trust, understanding, and mutual respect. The station had also changed. Energy systems were now optimized to harmonize with her life force, the corridors had been reinforced to support her movements, and her chamber glowed warmly with life. Rian worked tirelessly, not out of obligation but because he cared. Every adjustment he made, every minor repair, was a continuation of the bond they had forged through trust and survival. One evening, as the station lights dimmed and distant stars sparkled beyond the observation windows, the Dragon Lady stretched her wings fully and exhaled a long, steady breath. Rian approached, standing near her head. "You're ready?" he said softly. She blinked slowly, a gesture he had come to understand as agreement. Together they could leave the station if needed, soar into the galaxy, or face any challenge that came their way. The Dragon Lady nudged him gently with her head, and he smiled. "I'm not leaving your side," he whispered. She responded with a soft vibration that shook the floor slightly, a comforting confirmation. Their lives had intertwined, their bond forged in trust, struggle, and survival. Neither would be alone again. Days turned into weeks. The Dragon Lady regained full strength, soaring beyond the station with Rian safely on her back. They explored nearby asteroids, tested energy channels, and even helped repair ships in need. The human who had been a simple mechanic had become a guardian, a partner, and a friend to one of the galaxy's most legendary creatures. Through every trial, every repair, every flight, their bond strengthened. Rian realized that touching her, initially an accident, had changed everything, not only for the Dragon Lady but for himself. He had discovered courage he didn't know he had, and she had discovered trust she thought lost forever. Together, they were unstoppable, a living testament to partnership between human and dragon. As they rested one night in the chamber, wings folded and scales glowing softly, Rian whispered, "This is just the beginning." The Dragon Lady responded with a low, steady hum that vibrated through the floor and his chest. Their journey had started with a single touch, but it had grown into a new life, shared and unbreakable. The stars outside shimmered, reflecting in her golden eyes. Together they looked toward the future, free, strong, and united. A dying queen had been restored, a human had found his purpose, and a new legend had begun. They were no longer just survivor and mechanic, they were partners, friends, and family in a vast, waiting galaxy. And in that quiet chamber, filled with energy and life, the Dragon Lady and Rian knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. Their bond had changed the course of both their lives, and the galaxy would remember it forever.